what if there is a truth somewhere? What if you can be set free? What if you can be no longer a slave? What if you can be no longer scared? And I know it's hard. I felt the peace even with everything collapsing. I was in peace because I noticed that I'm doing the right thing. You don't like infidels because they don't follow the truth. I didn't like infidels because they don't follow the truth. But what if we followed the truth? What if Jesus died and resurrected? What would happen if this is the truth? I think it's worth it. It's worth it. It's everything.
You will not meet many people on earth who were more deeply woven into Islam than you, Thomas Samuel, which isn't even your real name. Now, your testimony is miraculous, but before we get into that, tell us about your life as a Muslim.
Islam is my life, It used to be my life. It used to be the thing that I thought that would never change, the thing that I thought that it has, there is no doubt about it, that nobody can take it from me. And I was a guy who walk every day morning and say, thanks God for being a Muslim. Thanks God on the grace of Islam. Definitely it's not the Christian grace, but it's a very different grace, the grace of being predestined as a Muslim. So that's how it starts. Islam for me was everything. I grew in a Salafi family. Do you know Salafism? Or maybe some people do not know much about Salafism, but it's easy. It's easy definition. It's Quran, the words of Allah according to Muslims, and Sunnah, the words of Muhammad and applications according to Muslims, with the perspective, the eyeglasses of the successors of Muhammad, the companions of Muhammad, the people around Muhammad, which is the first three generations, his companions, their disciples, and their disciples. So we say it in Arabic, Al-Quran wa Sunnah bimanhaj salaf al-ummah. It's both the perspective of the companions of Muhammad on Quran and Sunnah. So this is Salafism simply. And in this Salafi family, everything was strict. Everything was about God, about Allah. Allah is the major thing that we all go around. It's the central part of my life, and I cannot do anything that change that, and I didn't want to change it. I remember when I was a kid, for example, I used to say, I used to pray that God, for Allah to give me wisdom and to give me the words and the prayers of my mom, because my mom used to look at me and she says, I wish to see you a victorious leader coming back with victory, or a dead body coming as a martyr.
Wow. Yeah. Well, one of the things that's kind of crazy about your story is who your relative is. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. I came from the family, the Prophet house, we call it. So it's the family of Muhammad. Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, has some relatives because he himself didn't have male children except one who died early, and accordingly they considered all his cousins and so on are the relatives of Muhammad. They call this the Prophet house, and my grandfather was one of them, and he was the brother of Ali. His name was Aqil. So he was the brother of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the famous fourth Khalifa of Islam, and the cousin of Muhammad for sure. So that's that's my.
I think that's such an incredible place to start with. You are literally related to the Prophet Muhammad. You were related to a caliph. You were an imam. This was something. This wasn't a casual religion. This wasn't a nominal faith. This was your identity. I mean, you cannot get more entrenched into something than you were. So before, again, we'll get into your testimony. What was your view of Christians?
That's a good question because I considered Christians. Uh, Let me start from there. My mom, one day, um, I asked her that question. I was a kid. I was like 7 years old, something, 8 years old. And around that age, I asked her about Christians. I told her, we have neighbors who are Christians and what they are, you know, like, are they going to heaven? Are they are good people? She said, yeah, they may be good, but they are doing a great evil. I said, what is the great evil? She said, they are calling that God has a son. And this is bad. Can you imagine Thomas? Not Thomas for sure, my old name. Let's make it Thomas now. Can you imagine that they call God have a son? That God have a son? That's impossible. God should not have a son. I said, yeah, this is insane. God cannot have a son. She said, yeah, accordingly, they are infidels. So for me, Christians were just infidels. They are better than Jews because Jews, we call them the breakers of covenants. They break every covenant. And that is, I used to hear an imam who used to lecture and say the worst animals on earth are Jews. This was the title of his this was the title of his lesson. But for them, Christians are best of the bad, if I may call it that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. Okay. So this idea of growing up with this view of Christians, I'm really curious what it was like to grow up as a direct descendant of the family of Muhammad, right? Like Jesus obviously had no kids. There is no, direct son or daughter or even cousin. Well, I don't know if you can consider James. Anyway, that's a different theological story. But when it comes to being a descendant of the house of Muhammad, what kind of responsibilities comes with that? What kind of expectations come with that? I guess maybe what kind of pride comes with that, right? You're the top dog, right? You're the king of the bloodlines, I guess you could say. What was it like growing up as a direct descendant of him?
That's also a very special question because not that many people know that and not many people ask about it. But when we were kids and we got the name or we started to understand the name, they always say us there are two things come with the name: a pride and a responsibility. So everything you do should do it with the perspective of responsibility, that you are responsible before God, to be a role model before Allah. But at the same time, you should be proud of yourself because you are chosen to be one of His bloodlines. So that's why they always say theologically that um, we have everything doubled. The good things are doubled, but the bad things are doubled too. So that's where it comes the pride and the responsibility.
Mm.
So if you do something good, you have double of it. You have do something bad, you have double of it also.
Which leads to the idea is I cannot imagine the tension and the oh my gosh, the turmoil that must have been going on in your soul when obviously that transition your testimony into becoming a follower of Jesus. Now, my family is Hindu, especially here in the West, the United States. When you leave Hinduism, it's like okay, like all right. In India, it's a little bit more intense. Obviously, in Judaism, it's more of a shame, more of a gosh, I can't believe you turned your back on the ancestors that stood up to the cross for 2,000 years. But it's not necessarily a I'm never talking to you again. You're not my son kind of thing. I'm sure that exists. But having done a lot of these testimonies, when it comes to leaving Islam, not only is there a shame, not only is there a disrespect, but in a lot of cases, there's like a theological mandate of ostracization, violence. You are not my son anymore. I mean, and then to add on top of that, again, you are an imam. You're the descendant of a caliph. You are a descendant of Muhammad's, cousin. This is crazy. What kind of turmoil was going on in your mind? What kind of price was there to pay? In other words, the reason I'm asking this is you didn't take this lightly.
No, actually, I may say that it was a sense of responsibility. And actually, let us be frank. We, in general, in Salafism, go with seriousness when it comes to Allah. Go with a lot of seriousness. We are so serious about our faith. And actually, let me say it frankly, and even to many people who are listening, I think it's something that we need to learn as followers of Jesus, to be more serious. I'm not generalizing. We have a lot of serious people as well, but we have also a lot of not non-serious people or unserious people, and I think we need to put that in consideration. So this is one. The second thing, that being in that responsibility makes you a real um, careful. You make really careful what you are doing, what you are saying, who you are, how you are representing a whole. You are representing. It's like tribal thing. You are representing a tribe. You are representing something that is that has its own pride and has its own honor, that you should not let down or let it go. And I I was not only leading the prayer in the mosque under my uncle, who was the main imam of the mosque, but also I used to have my own program on a Salafi English channel. So this was important to represent Islam in the best way possible, to make it available for people. And this was also coming from this sense of responsibility since I was a kid. And the last thing, that you can never quit. It's very hard to quit. That's why it took me even time after coming to faith, or after struggling with my faith in general before even knowing Jesus, to take any positive step towards that, because it was scary for me. I cannot just quit and leave everything fall apart. It was going to be strange and ununderstandable and questioned by them. So it will raise a huge questioning, more than normal.
One of the things that I see in these stories of folks that have left Islam is that when Muslim Twitter gets a hold of these videos, the thing that you'll often hear is, well, they were never a Muslim to begin with, right?
Yeah.
They weren't real. They weren't a real Muslim. But if there's anyone who was a real Muslim, I mean, it would have been you, a descendant of Muhammad, again, an imam. So you didn't take this decision lightly. So let's get into your testimony, my friend. How did someone with such Islamic pedigree and credentials turn to Jesus?
Mm-hmm. Actually, it's first of all, it starts by God can everything. Only God can do it. I cannot do it. Nobody can do it to me. And let's give only glory to God. Jesus deserves to be followed, but it was not that easy as it sounds. It was a very long journey that had a very long struggles. I think the main point where we can start with, I can start with the point of my dream to go to jihad. I think this was the point of a lot of changes in my life, because before that I was a very radical Muslim who is very much into Islam, doing everything possible to be Muslim, and everything to make Islam the best in front of other faith or any other worldview, and representing Islam in the best way possible before this moment. But what happened that on 2003, the invasion of US to Iraq happened, and put in consideration my life, put in consideration the things that I used to listen, even in Salafism, music is forbidden. You don't listen to music. So for me, I used to listen to hymns, to Muslim hymns, or uh, we call it anashid. And even this is not recommended. This is not recommended. But all this anashid, all these hymns, is focusing on jihad. All of them are just writing and drawing a frame to how jihad is the best thing to do in your life. So adding to the dream of my mom, adding to what I wish to do, adding to what we learned at school and in Salafi schools and in Salafi mosques, this was the dream to come true. So when the invasion of Iraq happened, I said, this is my moment. I'm called to go to Iraq. And I get contact because also it's important for people to know that there are types of Salafism. Not all Salafi people are the same, but there are two major groups in Salafism. There is something called educational Salafism, which is my group, and there is something called Jihadi Salafi, which is jihadi, armed, military Salafism. So I was educational Salafism, but I get in contact with one of the jihadi Salafi, and this man was really, really happy and proud that I came to him and I asked for help. I asked him to go to jihad. This was 2003. He said, "At last, you can go for sure. I will manage that you go." And we agreed that I will wait for a phone call. And I just received his phone call saying that I cannot go. And this phone call was everything to me because I always say I planned my life to die for God. So for me to live was something very strange. I didn't put in account that I'm going to live, I planned that I will die soon. And someone could ask a very good question: why you want to die? And the answer is simple: hell. Hell is scary. Hell is very scary in Islam. And I challenge any other worldview to have a description of hell that Islam have. I studied most of them, as you will see in my testimony. And I'm telling you, the hell in Islam is real hell. I mean, it's very descriptive how your skin will burn and fall down, and Allah will make new ones to get burned again, and how an angel could hold your head and shoot it to a rock and make it explode because of the power of the shoot. And then he collected back and make it one more time, and another will put boiled oil in your ears because you listen to the prayer call and you never wake up. It's scary. These stories were scary. I mean, it was not normal. And we listened to this since we were kids. So, traumatized kids, this is what you can expect. So, I was so afraid. And the only exception, the only people who they say that they will go to heaven directly, even they don't need to be judged, as long as they are faithful in their death, are the people who gave their life to Allah as martyrs. So these people are exception. These people are the best. So for sure, I wanted to be one of them. I want to escape hell. So I was frustrated when I heard that I cannot go to die. I was so frustrated. This was killing me. And I felt like I'm going to hell. That's the other option. So it was for me jihad or hell. I'm going to hell. So one of my leaders asked to meet me afterwards. And at that time, I was so frustrated. I stepped back from many stuff, from meetings, from even leading the prayer. I stepped back from some days until one of the leaders talked to me, and he said a prophecy. This leader was for me a Bil'am. People who knows the Bible know what I mean. Bil'am. This was the Bil'am of the Old Testament to me. Why? Because he asked me, why you are angry? I said, what? I'm angry because God didn't choose me to die. Because according to Islam, martyrs are chosen. So God didn't choose me to die for him. He looked at me with a big look, deep look on his face, and he said, maybe Allah chose you to live for him, not to die for him. And this was a shocking word for me. Like, what? What do you mean by that? And aren't we all chosen to die for him like we should be seeking jihad? And he said, yeah, but jihad is not only military jihad. We should do things. And I heard you talking and preaching, and I think you should be preaching. You should be talking to other Muslims. And believe me, when you do that, we will have different people. Many will die. Many will die for Allah when you do that, because you will bring us many people, many young people who can be a help for the Salafism and for our group. I liked the idea so much. I felt like, okay, that's interesting. What can I do? And they started to train me how to do da'wah, we call it in Arabic. Da'wah is like equal to evangelism, to Christian evangelism, reaching out to others. So I learned to do da'wah, and I started to do it very good. And I was one of the best in doing it at that time. And my leaders were so happy of me. And I used to bring people. I was starting to be like really good in reading people. This guy is scary. I should talk to him about hell. This guy is greedy. I should speak with him about heaven. This guy, reading people. So this was interesting to me. I started to use it as it was my joy to do it. But the problem that it's still not equal to jihad. There is something missed deep inside me. So I started to think, even being on TV and so on, still something missed. So I felt like I need to do something more. I started to um, um, think of what could be equal to jihad, what could be equivalent to jihad. So the thing that was equivalent to jihad for me was not focusing on Muslims, because I was focusing on Muslims all the time, to change Muslims from nominal Muslims to Salafi Muslims. I said, why? What could happen if I focused on Christians? And in first 3 months on internet, I said I tried this on internet. In the first 3 months, I got 3 Christians to Islam. This was not hard. Today, I don't call them Christians at all, by the way, but they were saying that they are Christians at that time. But I felt like I convinced them. It was not hard to speak about the cross, to speak about God who could be incarnated and could be spitted on, and this is God, and they don't understand anything. They only say, "Oh, you are right, you have a point," and they turn after some nagging and some follow up. They come to faith, and this made me so greedy. Made me feel like, oh, I can do it. What if I can get the Pope of Egypt? So I started to think so high. I need to study, and if I studied, maybe I meet the Pope and convince him. So I started to think how to study. I got in contact with one Salafi center for polemics. It was not many, were only one or two. I started to learn polemics, and these polemics was so strange to me, because in the beginning it was nice, but I started to see that there is a pattern, that there is 80% of criticizing Christians and 20% of criticizing Christianity. So 80% of his talk is talking about, look for this pastor, what he said, quoting this father of church, what he said, quoting this new Christian TV that said this and that, Christian singers even sometimes, and they have also this idea that everything is an ideology um, 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 conspiracy theory. Everything is banished, like they are planning to give us this singer because she's Christian, so she come out naked so she can tempt a lot of men, so they fall in sin. Like there is someone behind the scene planning that. And we were convinced. So after a while, I started to see that pattern. I didn't like it. And the second thing, even regardless Christianity, the part that is related to Christianity, I always say it this way: it was too obvious to be true. Too obvious to be true. Like, for example, when you come to me and say, brother, look for John chapter 17, verse 3. Jesus is saying, and this is eternal life, to know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. Look, it's obvious. The only true God, it's talking about the real God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. It's his prophet. So it's exactly like Islam. So this was too obvious verse. I mean, you want to tell me that all these intellectual Christians have never read it? So they read it for sure. And that's why I went and asked my Imam why they are not turning to Islam or at least leaving Christianity, because it's very obvious. Their faith obviously saying to them, Jesus is not God, he is only a prophet. And his answer was very strange, brother. He told me my old name. He called me with my old name and he said, look, brother, my son, who is the most intelligent people on earth? I said, I don't know. He said, Japanese. I said, why? He said, because they are into technology and they are the most intellectual people on earth. I said, okay, let's consider this, yes. So what? He said, they come before a statue and they bow down. So it's not by intellect, it's by faith. His answer sounds good, but it's not good. It's not good. It's very stereotype from one side, and the other side, it's not like that. It doesn't mean that they are intellectually good, that they have a problem, that they don't use their intellect when it comes to faith. Anyway, but I didn't buy that. I felt it's so strange and it's not answering the questions, especially that my question was regarding Christians. I don't see Christians intellectual falling in front of statues in the streets, worshipping other gods. And I mean, anyway, I didn't buy that and I left and I decided to study alone. I said to myself, I study alone. So I started to try to find um, a source, and I was so motivated watching, Christian debates of Ahmed Didat and beating down all Christians. And they didn't, for sure, they never show us in the beginning, they never show us his debate with Josh McDowell. They never show us his debate with the real debates with theologians and apologists. They never show it to us. Anis Shurur, they never showed this to us. They show us only his debates with Stanley Khobari and others. So this was with pastors. I mean, so that was so deceiving in my opinion. So I was watching and interested, and I started to find a source, to try to find a source, try to find a Bible also, and ask Christians around me. Everyone was afraid. Can you imagine? Everyone was afraid to talk to me. Everyone was afraid to mention anything about Jesus. This is how much they are scared in Egypt. And it was so scary to them in Egypt to proclaim their faith. They always feel that it's a trap, that maybe I'm bringing them to Islam in a way or another, or I want to put them in jail for evangelism to Muslims or so, something like that. And then I got a Bible through one of them accepted to give me a Bible, and it was not the best results. I opened the Gospel of John, so it was so hard for me. In the beginning, it was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was God. I didn't get it. I didn't get what he wanted to say. I mean, it was not that hard, also, but it was a bit philosophical, and I felt like I don't want all this. I want summary. We believe in one, two, three, four. So I started to surf internet, and one day, while surfing internet, this is very important. I was watching, surfing, and suddenly, on the time of dial-up, we used to have jumping boxes, advertising boxes on the screens. So one box jumping on my screen, written on it, "Do you love Allah?" in Arabic. So I said yes, for sure. I love Allah. I clicked it. I thought it's a Muslim website, but for my surprise, it was a Christian website. It was a beautiful Christian website that made me rethink everything. I started to look at it and I like it to the extent that suddenly I stopped myself and I said, wait, 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 wait. I'm a Muslim, a real radical Muslim. How I like that. How should I like that? I started to look at my books, the Islamic books that I have in my library, and to the website. And for the first time, I said to myself, maybe we are wrong? Like, could we be wrong? This is impossible for a Salafi to say that, by the way, because we believe that if you doubt, you are an infidel. You should not doubt Allah. So I was so confused. I was so much confused, and I felt like I'm losing my faith. And I always say, this is very important for our brothers, especially who work with evangelism. Radical Muslims are not the hardest to come to God. Why? Because we believe that the wall, if there is a wall or screen, it's white screen. If I found one dot in this screen, one black dot, this means this screen is broken. If I found one crack in the wall, this wall is cracked. If I found one bad thing in the milk, this milk cannot be drank. So you understand me? So we are built on the idea of 100% right. So we don't accept 99.9%. We don't accept it. So that's why all what you need to do is to show him 0.1% problem. And this will make the work. And this is what happened with me. This 0.1% made me feel like I'm not sure. I'm not sure anymore. And this made me read again, not to escape. I started to read. But the more I read, the more I see things, because there is something has been taken out of my eyes. There is a bondage that was uncovered. There is a fold that has been broken. Something I started to see more clear in the scripture. For example, I started to question things that I never used to question it. I used to question the historical part, for example, of things in the Quran. How we are sure that this Quran reached to us, written. How we are sure, because on this website they proclaimed about manuscripts. How many manuscripts do we have? I never asked these questions. Even being involved in proclaiming Islam, Muslims are not interested to talk about that, you know. Uh, and I was teaching in the mosque some basics of fiqh and we call it raqa'iq. Raqa'iq means spirituality, of Islamic spirituality, and some maybe some rules of mawarith in fiqh. I was good with that also in the past. So these things, or inheritance laws, because I was so good with that. But these things are not questioned in Islam. The historicity of who said that. Who said that this, for example, one of the very major questions, who said that this sequence of the Quran is correct? Because the Quran, for sure, according to Islamic standard narrative, has not been revealed in one package, right? It was revealed on steps. And even some chapters are not revealed as one chapter. It was revealed on many times. Who said that this quarter, these 4 verses come before that 4 verses? Who said that? Who said that? I mean, they said the narration. Yeah, but who said why you can confirm it? Why you can confirm? How you can confirm this narration? So many questions start to jump up on my head, over my head. And I started to feel like, oh, I don't get it. So the more I read, the more I have more questions, more and less answers. More questions and less answers. And after a while of resistance, I lost my faith. I became an atheist. And definitely this was something internal. I didn't become an atheist officially in front of others, but internally I was atheist. I was leading the prayer while I'm atheist. Can you imagine? Because I have no options. I cannot tell them, oh, I found that Islam is wrong. I'm leaving. I don't have this luxury. I have to continue.
What would the price have been if you just said, guys, guess what? I no longer believe.
I don't think that I would stay alive.
Wow.
Yeah, some debates could happen for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, but not more than that. If I insisted, finished.
Wow.
Yeah, it's no joke. It's no joke. No
Uh,
joke.
so what's really incredible about your testimony is that it follows a pattern that we're seeing all over the Islamic world, right? I'm sure this is happening in other places, but specifically the Islamic world. I think of specifically places like Iran and Syria, where people are having dreams, people are having visions. It's very specific towards the Islamic world. And you are one of those people. You know, I feel like sometimes here in the West, we're almost jealous of like uh, people in the Islamic world, like having these dreams and visions. But we celebrate and we're so excited to hear what God is doing. So walk us through your story of these dreams. And again, maybe as you tell us your story, why do you think God is using dreams and visions to reach people?
Okay, that's quite interesting because after being an atheist for a while, I couldn't bear to continue as an atheist because I started to be I was intellectual, but I was not using it. I started to use it, I think, and I started to think what could be an enough evidence for atheism to be true. And I didn't find, so I changed it to agnosticism. And after a while, I felt like I have a problem with decision making skills. So I became a deist. And then I decided to take on my own life. And that was a tragedy. I took some pills that narrowed the blood vessels, and I thought that I'm dying. And I started to talk to God for the first time. And I told him, I'm dying, so do something. I'm stupid. I didn't mean it, but do something, save me. And I woke up like nothing has happened. So I said, is this like my question was, is it the dose was not enough or the prayer worked? This was my major question. So I said, okay, the only way to know is to try again. Definitely not the dose, the the prayer. So I decided to pray and to pray one more time. And when I prayed, I went to sleep that night and I saw that I'm running in a very long road in my dreams. I saw I'm running in a very long road, a lot of tree branches full of thorns chasing me. And at the end of the road, there is a man standing in front of me called I called him and I told him, please help me. Tree branches full of thorns are chasing me. I don't know who he is. So he extended his hand, put it on my shoulder, and brought me before him. And I found out that this is Jesus. I had no clue why, but it was just recognition in the dream that this is Jesus. And he looked deep in my eyes and he said, it is your time to follow me. I woke up and I said, this is hallucination. Maybe because the website I read or something, it's not true. I mean, why should it be? So the next day, I got the same dream with the same details. So I looked at the heavens when I woke up and I said, if this is not a joke, if you are really Jesus Christ, whom I have read about on this website, come to me one more time with the same details. Otherwise, I will never think of you again. And I slept the next day and I got the same dream with the same details. But this time he looked at me and he said, didn't I tell you it is your time to follow me? This different word, didn't I tell you, was my clue, my reason to say that he was listening. God can listen. Jesus can listen. And people should try that. Jesus can listen. And I think Jesus listen to us when we are frustrated and have no one else. That's why many people who specifically radicals or have no source or no way to get to know the gospel, Jesus interfere personally and show himself to them in dreams and in reality sometimes. And in visions, I mean. So I heard a lot of stories. I actually have a friend here who saw Jesus. Also, he's from a Shia background. He's from Iran, and he came here young, and then he saw Jesus in a dream, and he became a Christian. And the first thing he said, when I came, I thought that I'm so special that Jesus came to me in a dream. But after I came to Jesus, I found that most of the people met him in a dream. So there's nothing. So I'm not that special as I thought. So no, actually, we are all special in Jesus' eye to the extent that he can do that when it's impossible for us to have access to a right source of faith, to believe him. Because as I told you, I tried to talk to Christians, everyone was afraid. Everyone was simply afraid, like, I don't want, okay? I don't want to be in troubles. And it's also scary because scary not in the sense of this dream was scary. This dream was so comforting, actually, so comforting. But the scary part has to do with what else, what after that. I mean, what will happen? Now I met Jesus. What should I do? And you, where should I go? And who will believe me? And what will be the price of all of that? I mean, I may be killed. Should I say? Should I not say? Should I share this? Should I not share it? It's all questions that all converts are have struggled with for sure. So after that, I got the chance to meet someone through an application on internet, and this application was rooms, different rooms for debates between among Muslims and Christians, and I got to meet a Christian man there without mentioning titles. So he asked to meet me, and I met him, and I told him my story. And for the first time, I asked him, "Why me?" His answer was fascinating. He said, "Thomas, let me ask you a question. When you asked God, when you asked Jesus to come to you one more time, did he come?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Then ask him why me. This is a very personal relationship. I cannot interfere in it." And this was the first time for me to hear the word personal relationship between me and God. That you can have a personal relation with God. Because in Islam, God is so transcendent to the extent that he is transcendent for sure, but to the extent that we don't know who he is. I don't think Muslims know who God is. They know what God is, but they don't know who God is. I mean, they can say He is the creator, He is the most high, He is the most powerful, the most present, the most knowledgeable. Yeah, but this is what God is, not who God is. But we have something different. We have Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Jesus incarnated and showed us who God is in every motion, every way of thinking, every dealing with every situation. We know more. We can be into a relationship that nobody else can have. And this was tremendous change in my life. I followed him for a while, for this man, and then I asked to be baptized. And um, this was, I don't know if it was the best step at that time. Why? Because I was not really discipled. I was out of Islam 100% now, or I finalized my issue with Islam. But I needed more time with Christianity because once I faced, many people, and we experience that today in ministry. Many people, after they convert, they have something very common called doubt after belief, after faith, doubt after faith. Like, did I do the right step? Is this was the best thing to do? Maybe there is other thing out of that. The devil come with a lot of doubt, a lot of skeptical questions that make you think or need to think again. And that's what happened to me. And at that time, I was doing a diploma in psychology, and after I graduated from the faculty of law, so I studied Sharia, and I studied also in an institution of preparing preachers and for related to Al Azhar, and then I did the diploma in psychology. And while doing this diploma, this was 2011 now, or 2010 exactly, and they started to teach us about breathing exercises and teach us about meditation as part of the diploma and the importance of that. And I liked it. So I decided to search for a group that teach meditation. So I found an Indian group. No offense. I found an Indian group in Egypt, people living in Egypt, They are a group of 6 people living neighbors to each other in the same area, and they all teach meditation for free. I said, okay, this is the source. Let me learn meditation from the source. So I started to go there and I started to practice meditation and I started to go deep in meditation. I never left Jesus, but it was really I thought that it's really helping me to come out of stress and fear. After a while, I found that they are new age group and that I fall into this new age thing because I met the guru who is leader for one of the very famous movements in India in New Age called Pyramid Spiritual Society Movement. And he met me and he asked me to come to India. I traveled to India, to Bangalore, to Hyderabad, to Karnool, to Kadapa. I was everywhere in the south. And I started to adopt this new age thing, this and Hindu Buddhist style ideas of meditation, um, for example, anapanasati or vipassana, regarding depend on which group you follow. But I practice both, and it was so evil to the extent that you experience evil spirits in that evil spirits. And once I started to meet with these evil spirits, once people started to bow down at my feet as a guru because they considered me actually the reincarnation of one of the masters there, I I drove back and I went back to Egypt and I started to doubt everything and I started to feel like why I left, why I abandoned Jesus. This is something uncomfortable. This is something scary, actually. What I felt in the meditation, especially at the end of it, it was so scary at that last part of being with that group. And then I was introduced to through a friend to one of the churches. And let me focus also why I was stressed. One of the things that stressed me that also the repel of the church, because every church was so afraid that I attend with them. Every church. Whenever I go to a church, I'm rejected. So also this helped. I'm not giving it as an excuse, but it helped for me to seek someone to embrace me in a way. And that's why we always say converts doesn't need your theology as much as they need you as a brother. They need you as a family because they have no one. Brother, I'm talking to you today after many years of faith. I have been in faith for 13 years now. I came to faith fully 100% after this New Age experience, 2013. So after this long experience, I can say that um, converts needs you to be their family more than they need you to teach teachers and theologians to be over their head. And that's the role that many people don't want to play. They don't want to be mentors or fathers, I mean, real fathers here, spiritual fathers, but they want to be teachers. Oh, I will teach you how to pray. I will teach you how to say this. I will teach you how to say that, as if it's a religion. And this is not what is needed. What is needed is discipleship. And discipleship means that I have your experience with God, not your theology. Theology exists in books. I'm not against theology. I'm a theologian. We will come to that, but I'm talking about theology is important, but I'm talking about your spiritual experience. This is your relation with God. This is what really needed for newcomers. This is what really needed. So I I came back to Jesus after this trap, and because I went to this church, and the first thing I heard the preacher saying, "Stop searching around, stop going everywhere. God is waiting for you." And I felt that He's talking to me. The preacher was talking to me because I'm the one who's going around everywhere. And then I met one of the leaders who said to me a golden statement. I told him I have a lot of questions, and everyone kicked me out because of my questions. He said, "I don't have all the answers, Thomas. But I promise you that when we don't know the answer, we will search for it together." This was enough. This was more than enough for me. And I'm very thankful for this man in my life. And he meant a lot to me. And in that stage. But then when I get to know the Lord, I gave my life to Jesus on that day, like really fully percent, 100%. I gave my life to Jesus. It's a new start. I became, I consider myself a Christian since that time, and and in after summer of 2013, I started to talk to people more about faith. I started to be crazy. I left my house, my family house, due to some circumstances. I left, and and this was good for me because there is no one to mentor, mentor me if I went to mosque, if I didn't, if I prayed. I don't need to act as a Muslim so much. I need, but not so much as before when I'm while I'm living with my family. And I had more freedom. I started to speak to some people about faith, and that was the problem. Because the more you speak, the more the words spread out, the more people know that you doubt or you are not a Muslim anymore, the more you become criticized, and the problem started to happen. I needed to leave Egypt after some persecution that happened without going into details. And I traveled somewhere where I am right now, and it was a new start. It was not easy. It was a huge price. I left everything. I was working a very good job. My work was not only leading in the mosque. Leading in the mosque was my ministry, as from a Christian perspective. This was my duty. But my job, I was a learning and development consultant for many companies, and I was well known with that. And eh, I was having very good salary. I'm saying this because people think, oh, how much they paid you to convert. Oh, that's funny for me. You know, that's funny for me because I was a guy with $1,000 salary per day. I mean it. I mean it. I have papers that prove that, by the way. I was well known with that because I was sales trainer. This was my best training I give. I was training different things, but sales was the most important training that I do in the Gulf area. And they used to pay me $1,000 per day for my salary when because I get them a lot of money in one day also what I teach them. So I didn't need money to convert. Actually, I lost a lot of money when I converted. I lost my car, I lost my house, I lost everything. I left everything and I went to where I am. So I started from scratch.
Okay, my friend, one of the things we like to do is to allow you to speak to my friend here who's watching. Now, let's say that person comes from a similar background. They're starting to question their faith, and they're scared and they're worried, but they're watching you right now. What would your message to them be?
I would say, first of all, don't rush it. I was there. I was exactly there. Don't rush anything. I know it. I feel it. I understand it. I come from the Prophet's house. I came with this responsibility. I was leading the prayer in the mosque. I was responsible for doing. I was responsible for a circle of students in the mosque. 40 student, and I was responsible for an online class for Islamic studies also. I did that. I was there. I know how much it's important. I know how much it's everything. Islam is everything you have. And losing it could be scary. But at the same time, just give it a moment and don't judge it with your emotions and this fear. Just give it a moment and think about it. What if? What if there is a truth somewhere? What if you can be set free? What if you can be no longer a slave? What if you can be no longer scared? And I know it's hard, it's not easy, but believe me, with all what I mentioned, I am here today. God has given me a lot of comfort. When I look back, I can guarantee to you that He was there. I felt the peace even with everything collapsing. I was in peace because I noticed that I'm doing the right thing. And me and you know one more thing, that the truth comes first. Me and you live for the truth. You don't like infidels because they don't follow the truth. I didn't like infidels because they don't follow the truth. But what if we followed the truth? What if Jesus died and resurrected? What would happen if this is the truth? I think it's worth it. It's worth it. It's everything. It's everything, literally. I Today I'm not rich. I'm not um, compensated with any way, by the way. But I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ, and this is enough. That's why in the Bible says, and my grace is enough. My grace is enough. This is the grace that Jesus Christ can give you. And he said, my peace I leave to you. His peace is enough. His peace is different. And now I have one more thing. I know where I'm going. I know that I'm going to be with Jesus Christ. I know that they can kill me tomorrow. No problem. I'm happy. Why? Because Jesus will be waiting for me and receiving me openly. As Stephen said when he was dying and people were stoning him, my God, Jesus Christ, don't count it for them. Accept my soul. Because he was seeing him sitting on the right hand of the Father. So this is what I tell you. Give yourself a chance to ask yourself, what if this is the truth?
Woo-wee. Thomas, my friend, I have goosebumps. Praise the Lord. All right, obviously, we're going to have you back on for episode 2, 3, 4, 5. But as for now, how can people get in touch with you and check out your materials?
First of all, you are free to find me on social media. I'm go with the name Thomas Samuel, and you can see my pictures. That's easy. But the best way to get what I say is to get my books, actually. And I wrote 2 books up till now. I wrote my testimony with apologetical way in the first book called "It Is Your Time to Follow Me," and everybody now knows why its name is "It Is Your Time to Follow Me." And the second book is The Truth Unveiled, where I speak about a defense on the Trinity against Muslim proclamation. So, yes, so this is what I have done. I have other books under publishing right now, but I will talk about them later. But this is how you can get me.
My friend, thank you so much for coming on, and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.